Chapter 9. I spent the next hour or so on the couch, hunched over our wrinkled and crinkled old highway atlas. I traced my fingers over highways, checked distances, calculated miles, estimated drive times. Ivan sat beside me, switching back and forth between dozing off and batting at the pencil I was scratching notes with. We could make it. Using some old dental floss as a tape measure, I added up the miles. 3,600 miles, more or less, I told Ivan. He yawned at me. I agreed. It was doable. If we say an average of 60 miles an hour, that's a mile a minute. 3,600 minutes. That would be, let's see. I did the long division just like Rodeo taught me out of the old textbooks we used for my home schooling. 60 hours. There are 96 hours in 4 days. That gives us 36 extra hours for sleeping and eating and stuff. We can make it just in time. I gnawed on the crumbly remains of the pencil's eraser, yawned a big ol' I was awake most of the night yawn, looked at Rodeo up behind the wheel. I just got to keep him driving, and of course, completely unaware of where we're going. I closed the atlas, tucked my notes into the pages of the book I was reading. Hey, I called out to the front of the bus. How you doing? Need anything? Just peachy, prickly pear. I could almost smell that pork chop sandwich. All righty. You let me know if you need any company. I leaned back into the comfiness of the couch cushions. I knew I should just go up and get to gabbing with Rodeo, but my heart was all a swirl. I hadn't thought about that box for, I don't know, years. Ivan stepped onto my lap, turned a few times, and then settled in. His warmth was calming. I closed my eyes and then I gulped, and then I let the memories play behind my eyelids. I wasn't supposed to. There ain't no use in looking back, Coyote, Rodeo always said. He used to be able to tell when I thought about them. My mom and my sisters. I'd get quiet. I'd get sad. He'd shake his head, his eyes all watery. No, baby, don't go back there. Your happiness is here, now. You got to leave all that behind. But I never could, the way that he could. I just got better at hiding it, better at looking at those forbidden memories in secret. And I thought that was enough, that I could hold them in my heart, tucked away behind my eyes, and it'd be enough. But that had all changed when my grandma told me about the park. It changed when I remembered that day years ago and the box and the promise. Secret memories just weren't enough anymore. They never had been, maybe, but now I knew it. At some point, without even realizing it was happening, I drifted off into sleep. I dreamed about warm hands soft in mine, and shoulders touching, and whispered promises, and a family waiting for me to come home. I woke up with a start. Not quite an, oh my God, my secret kitten is gone and my crazy dad is going to find him kind of start, but close. I didn't know how long I'd been asleep. It felt like evening and the light was kind of gray and it smelled a little like rain, but I wasn't worried about dim light or precipitation. I was worried about the fact that the bus I was lying in wasn't moving. I jumped up. Rodeo was sprawled in his bed, bare feet sticking out of the blankets. The second-hand clock we had hanging above the windshield said 7 o'clock. We'd only made it 4 hours before the lazy bones decided to take a break. I kicked one of his grubby feet. Not mean, just urgent. There wasn't much of a reaction, so I bent down and grabbed his foot and shook it like a dog killing a snake. Rodeo's head shot up, looking, well, rather pissed off. What are you doing, Coyote? His voice was thick with sleep and confusion. Excuse me? I asked. What do you think you're doing? He blinked at me, looked down at his blanket-covered body, then back up at me. Sleeping? Exactly. And we got miles to cover, Papa Bear. Get your butt up. Coyote, he started. And it was generally never a good thing when he started a conversation with my name and then a pause. I drove for like 12 hours last night. That kind of thing can make a fella tired, you know. I have to sleep sometime, kid. This dead dream turns into a nightmare pretty quick if I fall asleep behind the wheel and we slam into a highway overpass. And unless you got a driver's license, honey bear, this bus is going to have to stop moving when I do. Now leave me be. Those pork chop sandwiches aren't going anywhere. He rolled over, pulling the blanket dramatically over his head. I cursed myself silently. I never should have let myself fall asleep. I craned my neck, looking out the windows. Where are we? I asked. When there was no answer, I kicked at the blanket and asked again, "Where are we?" The blanket growled. "I am in bed. You are standing over me, shrieking like a damn harpy. That's where we are." "No, like where are we actually?" The blanket blew out a sigh. "Florida still. Tampa, I think." "We're still in Florida?" "Yes. Good night." I stood there looking down at the grumpy lump, chewing on my lip. I squinted out the window and saw a gas station just up the road with a little diner attached. "I'm going out," I announced. "Thank God." "When I get back, we're leaving. When you get back, the door's going to be locked." I rolled my eyes, like I didn't know how to break into Jaeger. I grabbed our atlas and a wad of cash from our money box by the garden and slipped into my flip-flops. Ivan was curled up dozing on the dashboard, and I gave him a quick head scratch on my way out the door. I wasn't in the mood for sitting around and waiting, but there's something about the smell of hamburgers and french fries that'll make a soul feel a little more all right about settling for a bit. I made sure to grab a seat by the window so I could see Jaeger, then took a gander at the menu. The diner was small, but they knew what they were doing. They had all the right things on the menu, and the food came out quick, hot, and salty. I popped a salty fry in my mouth and considered my problem. As irritating as it was, Rodeo had a point. He probably was going to have to sleep from time to time. I'd have to meet him halfway on that issue. But we had a lot of miles to cover and precious little time to cover them in, and there was no halfway on that one. Either we made it or we didn't, and I was determined that we would. So I had a bit of a dilemma on my hands. Looking at the atlas didn't help. It showed me where to go, but not how in the heck to get there. I sat there chewing and pondering and wishing I was old enough to drink coffee. Now, here are some things I don't generally believe in: fate, astrology, angels, magic, or the mystical power of wishes. Sorry, I just don't. So there ain't no easy explanation for what happened next. But that's all right, 'cause not everything in this world needs to be explained. We can just chalk it up to luck and call it good. Here's what happened. I was sitting there wondering how on God's green earth I was going to get us to Sampson Park before the bulldozers fired up, when I heard the following words from the booth behind me. "Tammy, you know I want to get there. Course I do, but I'm broke. I got no money for a bus ticket. How am I going to get all the way across the country with no money?" I stopped mid-chew. In the diner window to my side, I could see the reflections of our two booths. In the booth behind me was a black fellow wearing big round black framed glasses. He looked youngish, not a teenager anymore, but not too far away from it either. He was wearing a white tank top undershirt and an old-fashioned bowler hat on his head. All he had in front of him was a chocolate milkshake, and he was hunched over, whispering into his phone. "Yeah," he said. "Uh-huh. Of course, you know that. I'll figure something out." "No, baby, don't say that." "I will, I promise." "Well, I don't know yet." "I'll catch a ride or something." No, come on, don't say that. But then his words cut off. He sighed and set his phone down. Tammy, whoever she was, had hung up on him. I swallowed the bite in my mouth and nodded to myself. I picked up my plate and the atlas and slid out of my booth, then walked around and plopped down on the seat across from the milkshake dude. His eyebrows went up and his mouth dropped open. "Hello," I said. He narrowed his eyes. Hello?" he said. "Do I know you?" "Not yet," I answered. "Where are you headed?" The guy looked around. He was probably looking for a parent or something, unaware that my version of a parent was asleep on an old school bus. "Excuse me?" I took a bite of my burger and chewed, talking around it. "I'm sorry," I said. "I'm being rude. It's just that time is of the essence, and I was trying to get straight down to business." I set down my fork and held out my hand. "Coyote." He looked at my hand, then back up at me. "Excuse me?" he said again. "My name is Coyote. It's a pleasure to meet you." I stretched my hand out an inch closer to him. "Oh, your name is... Okay." He still looked a little unsure, but he reached out and shook my hand. "My name's Lester. Listen, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with Tammy." "You know Tammy?" Lester asked. "Of course not. But I think I got a handle on your situation. Where are you headed?" Lester leaned back, sizing me up. He shot another look around the diner, then took a sip of his milkshake. "Boise," he answered. "Boise, Idaho?" I asked. One corner of his mouth went up. There another Boise I don't know about? I grinned at him. Good point. I shoved a few fries in my mouth and flipped the atlas open to the big map of the whole country at the beginning. My eyes darted from Florida to Boise to Washington State. I nodded. Then I looked Lester up and down. He had a nice face, friendly and open. There was a duffel bag sitting on the seat next to him. I didn't see a rifle or a shovel or human legs sticking out of it. I swallowed the fries and grimaced. Man, those are salty, I complained, looking around for a glass of water. Lester saw me looking and slid his milkshake across the table to me. And that sealed the deal right there. Now I tend to like folks with nice, friendly, open faces. And I tend to like folks who eat nothing but a milkshake for dinner. I think it really says something about their openness to life and their general philosophical outlook. But I definitely like folks who offer to share their milkshake with someone they just met. I took a strong sip of his shake and I smiled. So tell me something, Lester, I said, licking the milkshake off my lips. You got a driver's license?